Thank you, everyone. It's a bit of an intimate audience. We do a survey every year. We do a survey that is unbiased. We present a set of questions and we put them out to really the Global 2000. And so just to give you a sense of data, and so I love this session because it's one of the most data-intensive sessions we have. And sort of it's interesting. We'll send you the slides, or feel free to take screenshots. All of it's going to be public information. But just good information, not only for maybe pushing hopefully the Dremio agenda in your organizations, but also putting whatever agenda you have from a data and AI perspective within your organization. As a data point for us, this is interesting, 27% financial. Within Dremio, about 33% of our business is actually financial services. So pretty decent size. And actually, while this is tech, about the next number is actually healthcare. So very interesting that even though we didn't specify this, the industry coverage was actually very consistent. The other thing we see, maybe not on the slide, is that we also see cloud being the primary mechanism in North America, and we see actually hybrid being very prevalent in Europe. In fact, I would argue in our business in Europe, half the business is software. Maybe even more, maybe 60% is software, because people want to run in a sovereign cloud model and a hybrid model, very common. We see that in the Middle East, we see it in the UK, we definitely see it in Europe as well, or EU as well, excuse me. So lots of trends there. But the great part is this is a really appropriate sample set, 100 plus organizations, and we try to get everybody in the data platform area. Okay, so what are the conclusions? Number one, as you'd expect, not a surprise, 65% list analytics and AI as and driving agentic decisions as the most important thing. Now, what agents mean, how they're used, I think that's all open for interpretation. But what I think is very interesting is it's very clear. It's a clear priority. And what I'm finding is, when I talk to practitioners in the organization, anything that has an AI label somehow gets funded in some way. And so you could slap an AI label on a chair, and all of a sudden you got AI chairs everywhere. And it's very common. So it's interesting to see that. But I do think that as you think about your agendas in your organization, it's becoming the number one thing. And frankly, what I also see some of our customers talk about is how much money they've spent on AI. Meaning, boards actually want to know, we've allocated X hundreds of millions for AI, and what does that mean to them? So know that that's something that your CFOs are tracking, very important piece of the puzzle. Okay, so from that, why are we doing it? We all talk about efficiency, but I would say the thing we don't talk about as much is measuring productivity. And so efficiency is one piece, and in fact, I saw today on Reddit, I probably spent too much time on Reddit, IBM has just laid off 8,000 people. I'm sorry if you saw that in the news, around AI. And we all know it's not a nirvana. We know it's not a sort of end-to-end, but we do know that efficiency is one piece. I think that's the easier one to look at. But frankly, the productivity measurement is something that I'm seeing really struggle for organizations. So how do we measure productivity is an open one that I do think will become a topic that you will need to get ahead of, and one that I think we're still struggling as an industry to sort of measure accurately. So just keep that in mind as you think about adopting AI. So the top 3 data challenges, of course, unifying data very clearly. This was actually just direct out of the survey. Second, data quality, not a surprise. And the third is the lack of a semantic layer. How many of you have a semantic layer in your organization? One person. Okay. So I would say this is probably the most important thing going into the AI world. Now, I think a lot of organizations, and we had our customer advisory board, some of our folks are in the audience here, people take a binary view. I must have it all perfect. That is not the model. Go use case back is sort of the thing I've always been pushing organizations on. Meaning you don't need to have every measure, every metric, every table perfect to then go and turn that over to AI. In our world, as I mentioned in my example, I just did Zendesk. I just did the Zendesk tickets, and I had our support organization own the semantic model, not the central e-staff team, not the data team. I had actually our support organization, our support leader, build the semantic model within Dremio. Why is that important? Well, they're now responsible for that semantic model, and they're now responsible for maintaining it. So as Zendesk advances, they're now responsible for those pieces. And so that has now allowed, the ROI for him is that now he's able to then not require analytics from me. He just sort of feeds me the semantic model, and I'm now running queries all against it, which is great. It also means then he's able to drive a lot more outcomes faster. So that third piece is going to be, I think, really important. So one takeaway as you all walk out of this conference today is really think about what are the components of the semantic model that need to be created. I can tell you, you want to democratize this as much as possible. And once you have some democratization, you should start to pull back how much is available for each organization, meaning you don't want 5 definitions of revenue. That's pretty consistent across the organization. But things like quota may feel different things. Quota is disc quota, or quota is sales quota. Well, those are different things that'll be in different organizations. And so you'll need to really think about how you assess that, publish it, measure it, et cetera. And when you double click on, hey, what are the reasons you haven't gone faster? It's the governance infrastructure that has been the biggest challenge. And the governance infrastructure, the governance infrastructure being, how do I assess quality? How do I make sure that the system is generating quality information and just I can trust the data? If I cannot trust the quality of the underlying data, then the AI is garbage and I won't. And the minute that the response is bad, you're going to lose confidence in your user base. So one of the things we've really relied on is making sure we're consistent on the infrastructure, governance infrastructure. And so even within Dremio, we actually look at and publish statistics consistently, actually pulled from AI on what are the statistics that show the accuracy of the data. Remove the nulls from this, or hey, this information wasn't updated in the last 2 days, 3 days, et cetera. So we look at all this information. So we know this is a critical barrier. So as you think about that semantic layer, then what are the things you need in that? How do you trust a particular component of that semantic layer, and what are the requirements for that, and who owns that within your organization? That is clearly something that's both technology and process and ownership that has not been the case, and we see that consistently. So double-clicking, of course, generative AI Copilot. I know I talked a little bit about this earlier. I do believe, one prediction I have, and we haven't put this in the slide, is I think we're going to see AI silos. I think we're going to see, a lot of you have adopted Copilot. Dan's in the audience. Dan, good to see you. Has adopted Copilot. And guess what? Copilot is another silo. And yes, you may have it across some Microsoft products, but you're going to find that to be a problem. You're going to find Copilots within Salesforce to be a problem. Well, if you record that chat of that sales experience, how is that going to translate back to your model? How did that person get that conclusion? How are you going to audit that information? So we know, just like we have data silos, you're going to start to see AI silos. The good thing is, I think we're already starting to see individual level productivity, but that has to translate into something more at the semantic layer. So while we've talked about the semantic layer being something that is ontology, meaning tables and views and relationships maintained by hopefully a business unit, you also want to eventually you will want to push in memory. So the next piece of this is, and you'll see this from us probably late next year, is being able to push memory and the interactions that you have with AI, and how does that feed the AI system? And how do you audit then that outcome, those outcomes? So all that's going to be part of, I believe, the Copilot experience. And now, if you have multiple clients, you have a Claude client, you have a ChatGPT client, and you've got Copilots around, how do you now audit all that information? That will become very challenging for enterprises, and we do believe that will be, while we'll deliver AI, Copilots, and so on, that'll be a big one. The other big one we see, of course, is agentic analytics. I'm actually, since I've got the execs in the room, how many of you are connecting enterprise data to your agents? 2? That's like people are nervous. Yeah, like one use case, 2 use cases, not a lot. Yeah, it's scary, right? So I think I do believe if a semantic layer is made available, you should be able to democratize that out, because you have the same governance. The beauty is you can say, hey, I'm an agent. I'm a user sitting within ChatGPT or Claude. Again, it's subject to the models you all have approved in your enterprises. You could say, hey, I'm going to apply my same RBAC and PAT token privileges into Dremio, and Dremio is going to honor those all the way down. So now you, one, sort of check the box so you've got the right coverage. Second piece is give me only access to the semantic layer that I should have access to. Because now I have the semantic tool to search for data, and then I have the access layers that I have. So now I can control and measure and be very predictable about that. I believe that's going to be the way in which you get analytics deployed. I can tell you when we first deployed the agent technologies at Dremio, we're obviously a little smaller organization, but I can tell you hallucinations are all over the place. I'd go to support organizations, why is this happening to this customer? You're looking at data that's really old. So getting the semantic layer piece was built very well. And in fact, Reed's here, but we did, Zendesk was the first one we did. Then we actually started to do all of our marketing. And in fact, actually, Reed, what percentage of your marketing team what percentage of your marketing team's daily activity is through AI today?
As a productivity tool, like if we were, obviously we do stuff with email, like
Yeah.
other things where we're not using it. But it's probably like maybe a third of time of like, you do meetings, you're not necessarily an AI tool, but if you're doing like actual individual work, probably a third of it on average is spent in an AI tool.
Yeah.
Right now. We don't always, not everything we're doing is analysis.
Right.
We do more analysis at like before weekly business reviews and before QBRs. And when I say we, I mean like my events leader does this. Mark does this. He's a PMM on the team, in terms of covering the areas that he's covering from a go-to-market area. And so when we first started on the analytics side, we had to sort of create a data dictionary. And so a lot of our semantics initially lived in Tableau. So we had been doing extracts to Tableau as sort of an analyst had set that up on my team. So I don't have an analyst anymore. I only have an analytics engineer. So I flipped that use. And so now we put all of that information back into our semantic layer. And I did that with our analytics engineer we brought in. And so the results that we've got is we're now using it for all of our strategic planning. So for an example, I went and said, hey, what is my ROI for events by region? Okay, well, it works really well in this area for this type of event. Should we do more of them? That was a question I asked. And it basically came up and said, oh, I've seen these partners here, 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 and here. We should do more with these partners over in this part of the world. I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. I knew it was right because I'm close to the details on the team, but it couldn't have done that before. And you start to learn what it's good at and not good at just by using it. You got to use it a lot. We probably are 18 months of use, and we probably really flipped the switch to strategic use about 6 months ago.
Yeah, obviously we're a less regulated organization than some of the folks in the room. We have also now started to take this and take tactical steps on, say, like a business development rep or a sales rep. Before a sales rep gets on a call with the customer, we do all that scraping and summarization and push that right out to the rep. So now they should be able to handle a lot more calls than before, and it is truly helping a lot of them as well. Yeah. So really big, and we're actually now starting to take this and say, can we take bite-sized actions? I have the analytics, can I do a bite-sized action? So there are obviously tools out there. We're using Relevance as one example within the organization. We're now, where if we get an inbound lead from a webinar, from a subsurface event, et cetera, we can take that and action a small step. Not like multiple steps because we're not quite there yet, but start to action individual steps. And we'll start to see that, I think, internally within organizations. And as you can clearly see, customer-facing applications are right on the list because we all know when that gets wrong, then a lot of people get yelled at. So we want to get that right. So really important. Okay. So, of course, Lakehouse, I think you saw this in my presentation, 95% of companies are leveraging Lakehouses as the model. And I do see folks, data warehouse vendors like Snowflake, like BigQuery, try to push more into the Lakehouse area. I still think, at least today, it's still a bit of a sidecar for them. Not a negative. I'm not saying it in a negative. I'm saying it's simply they see it as their sort of secondary business, not their primary business. But we also know they're adding AI capabilities there. But again, we think Lakehouses are that fundamental approach, and certainly the data supports it. Of course, we know the value propositions, I would say, of the Lakehouse model and why it's worked out so well. Continue to have unified access, self-service, all the things you know. The interesting part about the Lakehouse side is because Iceberg has become such an open standard, we're starting to also see solutions like, say, Confluent writing to Iceberg, us reading from Iceberg, and frankly, even these chat experiences and agent tools start to plug into Iceberg as well, and the permissioning and the access control there. So I think we're going to see more there. That's my prediction. I do think we'll see more of these agent tools expect an Iceberg Lakehouse or a Databricks Lakehouse or what have you. Okay. If you kind of put it all together, 75% of all data and AI workloads will be on the Lakehouse in the next 3 years. 75%. It's pretty powerful. It's not me making up the number. It's literally from our survey. That, I think, is very compelling on where we think the dollars in investment are going to go. So nice to see that tailwind, and so you're on the right journey, I guess is the right way to say it. The other piece is 70+% will adopt an open table format by 2026. So that's another really nice model. I would say the good part about this is, I know some of you are on Delta, some of you are on Iceberg, and we sort of have this debate. Hoodie, I think, is probably going to go nowhere, unfortunately. It's not because it isn't a good solution. I just think you don't have enough tools out there leveraging it. And so I'm a big fan of ecosystems, which is why we're big on Apache. we could all debate, and I always see this sort of data engineer present to me like, here's a comparison between Hudi and Delta and Iceberg. And my answer is, yeah, but how many vendors are supporting each of these columns so I don't have to sit there and do custom work on my end, write a custom script to do X or Y. So unless you have a build shop like a Netflix or something, I actually believe you kind of lean in towards Iceberg. And even though I think Delta was ahead of Iceberg for many years, we'll start to see that convergence happen. So I believe by kind of Iceberg v4, you will start to see one model, which will be right for all parties. Snowflake, Databricks, us, everyone, and we'll have an easier model and approach in this space and make it easier for customers. I will say one other thing here, and I think it's something to be mindful of as you all adopt these open technologies, is while most of them, whether it's Google or I think Azure now has Purview. Anyone using Purview? Sounds about right. No knock, but it sounds about right. They're all going to apply Iceberg REST interface specifications. That's consistent. What I think we all should be mindful of is that the authentication mechanisms are all different. Okay, so as you look at Iceberg REST catalog specification catalogs, you might say, well, I could adopt Glue, or I could adopt Open Catalog from Snowflake or us or anybody else. Be mindful that the authentication mechanisms will be complex. There is no standard. And that will be a piece that will have complexity for folks. So while open table formats are going to be there, I hope to have another slide next year, which will be about open catalogs and what that looks like. But that'll be the other piece of the puzzle in this mix. So when you put it all together, one, we clearly know agentic AI is going to accelerate a lot of these things, and to move to sort of lakehouses as being either an adjunct or the primary way in which you consume and analyze data. The second thing, I'm a big believer in this. I think we'll see a lot, over the last 10 years, we've seen Spark and we've seen Python, which still have value, be the sort of fundamental premise of how you do ETL. And I imagine most of you are still doing primarily ETL via those two mechanisms, or maybe using a little bit of Fivetran, a little bit of Tibco or Informatica or what have you. But because of the advent of things like DBT and because of things like AI, we're now starting to see the shift of transformation to really a DBT-based approach. Why is that important? Because that now means it's even easier to use AI to generate that. So one of our customers, large oil and gas firm, they have removed Spark completely from their environment. They use DBT across all their business units. And they use DBT core, not cloud. Sorry, DBT. But now Fivetran, I guess. So they have used DBT across our enterprise. They use Spark really in the corner, kind of just to ingest the data. First step, ingest, drop it into the lake, put it into Iceberg. Once that happens, they run DBT. And they use Dremio, luckily for us, but they also can use other engines if they want as well. And the nice part about that is all the lineage stays on the lake. Why is that important? Well, if the lineage stays on the lake, then your AI function is going to function that much better. There's less work for you to do the manual. So I do believe the disparate tool world will start to become challenged in an AI world where you need to provide and flush all that context into AI agents. So keep lineage in mind, because I do think it'll be part of the reason how I and you as an executive, when you get data, is where did you get this data from? How did you pull it? What last got updated? How can I trust the data? Those same questions you likely will ask the AI, and it will likely need to have the same context of information. So we know this world will change, and as a result, we think the semantic layer is going to be important, of course, and as a replacement for a lot of this ETL piece. And as I said, ETL will move from Spark to a lot of these DB. I'm curious, how many of you are leveraging DBT in your organizations? Interesting. Not as many. Okay, not as many as I had expected. I would have expected. Okay. Okay, you're using DBT on top of Databricks. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it is an enabler for folks. I know data engineers are typically 5+X more productive as a result of leveraging this, and we think it'll become a standard. And of course, the final piece, I think it's a provocative statement. Companies that fail to adopt lakehouse infrastructure will have a lot of cost. I think that's kind of what we see. So as part of our release today, I can tell you personally, I walked through a comparison of costs between our cloud, Databricks, and Snowflake, and everybody else were more than 50% lower cost, just FYI. But also at list price. But also these AI solutions are going to become very expensive for all of you. I'm sure you're feeling a bit of that already. One of the ways to offset that cost is to take those dollars and put it into building a semantic layer. What we didn't share today is, and we shared it a bit in the cab yesterday, is that if you saw the tool chains that were in Tomer's video, those tool calls are all costing you compute dollars with us or with any system, and they're costing you AI spend. The minute you have the semantic layer, those tool calls get cut to like a third, if not less. So as you think as executives about investing in a semantic layer for your AI projects, know that it has a pretty clear business ROI if you're leveraging a lot of AI today and leveraging data platforms like us or anybody else. So that'll be the other piece. I think next year, I hope that the number of hands here of who's built a semantic layer, even 25% should be significantly higher, meaning cover 25% of the use cases in your organization. I'm hopeful most of you have done that. So those are the big three pieces that we see. Okay. Obviously, lakehouses, critically important. Semantic layer, critically important. And of course, the more you can leverage on open technology. Those are probably the big pieces that come out of our discussion.